Welcome home, daddies. Welcome home, daddies. Welcome home, daddies.
Daddies, I know you missed us. I missed us. We kind of got a double feature for you today. We're podcast, blog, they're flipping a bit. Podcasts are now going to be doing some recaps, and the blogs are going to be doing our predictions. Just works better for schedules. I think we flipped it last year. Either way, we're doing a little snip, snap. You'll hear the commish on this one, but he's not here today. He said, screw that cast. I've got one of two dang near royalty sitting on here with me for the second week in a row. It's great seeing him. He's a newly married man, Mr. Aaron Butzich.
It's a joy to be 4-0. I've never been in this position, nor have I had a win streak this long. So this is new territory for me, but I'm blazing my own path right now. So it feels pretty good.
Okay, we did this last week, but we're bringing them back because nobody got to hear it, and we're not putting it in this one. So I've got a couple dad jokes to kick us off. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So what did the football coach say to the broken vending machine?
I don't think I've heard this one. What did he say?
Please give me my quarterback.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
Well, this next one is a fun little. I would argue it's kind of reminds me of the Chicago Bears. What insect doesn't play very well in football?
I couldn't see a ladybug doing well, and that's not misogynistic.
It is because the insect that doesn't play well, maybe Justin Fields' new nickname, because he's a field of fumblebees out here. Fumblebees.
I get that one. That's a good one.
Boo, you stink.
All right. I hope that it was as quiet in your headphones listening to this as it was on the actual podcast, because those have not gone over well, and that's exactly how they're supposed to go. So,
crickets. That's the bug you're looking for.
Absolute crickets. All right, buddy. You're well. I mean, even though we're not releasing the full cast from last week, you're basically a seasoned pro at this, just as you are with your fantasy team. What do you should we do? Should we do some Malort moment? What do you got this week?
I'm gonna say that my Malort moment is Zach Wilson.
Oh,
Is that this guy has done just about everything he can, and he just can't get it right in the NFL. And this was his best game this past week that he's had. He outperformed Patrick Mahomes, first player to have more completions, more touchdowns, and less interceptions than Patrick Mahomes in a game. And he still lost. And he put that all on himself. And man, I feel bad for the guy now at this point, because he just cannot get it done. Some people weren't meant to make it in the NFL, and unfortunately, I think Zach Wilson might be that guy. So, New York Jets had such a great prospect this year. I was really rooting for him, but Zach Wilson, man, it's tough. It's tough out there. And on top of it all, he didn't even get the MILF. Travis Kelce's mom was there. Donna Kelce. No luck. No dice. Not looking good for Zach Wilson.
Conceptually had thought about this, but not never put any verbiage around it. But like the NFL scholarship, meaning you're an early draft pick, kind of like what the Bears did with Trubisky. And they're saying that's kind of what's happening with Zach Wilson. Like you get your few years as a tip of the hat, but if you don't perform, basically everybody gets one extra year than they should, 1 or 2 extra years than they should.
Yep.
And Zach Wilson is, and you know what? This year, I think his scholarship was maybe up last year. Yeah, you want to talk about, and I maybe this is, I have kind of two Malort moments a little bit, but I'm gonna tail off of yours for just a little bit, and let's just talk about that draft class in general, how poorly they're doing. You got Trevor Lawrence, who's on the struggle bus. Got Justin Fields, who's Justin Fieldsing all over the place.
Tough.
Throw it back one more year, Joe Burrow. What's going on?
He gets paid and he won't show up. I couldn't think of a better word for it than anemic. They just look pathetic.
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep going down this road of QBs, and this will just be a collective Malort moment, I guess. QBs that are just not performing this well. Not the ones that are, because we know those. We also have Mahomes is vastly underperforming for how he should be doing.
Desmond Ritter is another one who has been atrocious with the Falcons. Aiden O'Connell, a Purdue boy, pride of Purdue. I saw Aiden O'Connell put up like 500 yards at the 49ers stadium in California in a bowl game, and it was awesome. But six sacks for Khalil Mack.
Six sacks.
He had 6 sacks.
That's insane.
Aiden O'Connell held onto the ball way too long. So a tough look. He started his first drive with a rushing touchdown. He looked great, but
Yeah.
a tough intro to the NFL.
Tough intro to the NFL. Geno Smith, what's going on? I mean, it's kind of a rough year for quarterbacks. You would say I wouldn't have put Tua there, but after last week's performance, I mean, he's still doing fine, but he kind of got very much shut down. Tua's very hit or miss though, but nonetheless, it's rough out there on quarter. Tannehill, man, we could just go on and on about these teams.
Yeah.
Richardson is maybe one of a bright spot, but I feel like there are no Josh Allen. Correct me if I'm wrong, and tell me Josh Allen and Herbert.
Tua are the 3 front runners right now.
Yes,
but Tua obviously with the last week he is less enticing.
Lamar's finally doing Lamar things. That's exciting.
Yes,
that's exciting.
So,
all right, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's a perfect transition into my perfect pour, because I have the number 1 player in fantasy right now who is far and away above any of the quarterbacks right now. And the talk right now is, are we going to have a non-quarterback MVP for the first time in a long time? So my perfect pour is Christian McCaffrey. I didn't expect to have the season he's having when I got lucky at number 2. I wanted him at number 2. I didn't want to take Justin Jefferson, actually, which both would have worked out. But I feel pretty lucky. He has 15 or so more points than second place, which is a quarterback, which is Herbert. He is on pace to put up 2,500 yards from scrimmage, 28 touchdowns, which would be the best fantasy season of all time over LaDainian Tomlinson's 2006 performance,
when we were all 11-ish, except for Brandon and Chris, who were 25.
I think they were playing fantasy at that point. We know Matt was playing fantasy at that point. He was managing fantasy. So my perfect pour is Christian McCaffrey. Man, I didn't expect this dude to go so hard, but that last performance, 4 touchdowns. I didn't say anything in the group chat because I didn't want to jinx it, and he just kept going. So it was real key for me. Shocker, or maybe a spoiler, but to winning this week.
Yeah. I mean, it was heavily not in your favor until CMC started playing. I thought that Matt was actually going to run away with it. Another unfortunate week for him. We'll get into it, but we've got football basically from Sunday morning until Monday at like 11 o'clock, which is great because we've got the cross the ponds. We had the Ryder Cup. We had the Falcons and Jags. Super fun. But my perfect pour, I only watched a little bit of it because I was out hitting the links, not going to church, which shows because I lost this week. But was the Toy Story game. Did you watch any of the Toy Story game?
How humbling it is to see your pick 6 in Andy's room get animated. Yeah, it was pretty funny. I love what Nickelodeon is doing, man.
Well, it's Disney, but yeah.
But
Nickelodeon, Nickelodeon slime stuff is fun. It's a fun way to engage. It's one of those things that feels very low risk because it's on a streaming platform. It's one of the few things that are fun. One of the technologies I want to see implemented in real gameplay is and they had this in did you watch any of the Toy Story game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is like in Madden, like the ring or the name above players, especially who has the ball. Because how many times does it get thrown and you're like, wait, who is it? Until you see a number, they turn around or something. How cool would that be? And clearly within the realm of possibility. And so Toy Story game because it was fun. I'm a big Toy Story. I love Buzz. I'm a Buzz Lightyear guy. And also like just looking at the potential technology that could be coming to the NFL.
Well, I love to be buzzed, and I am buzzed from that perfect pour.
Amen, brother. You want to get buzzed off some analytics?
Absolutely. That's even better.
All right, so this is we're calling this segment the all too soon playoff push, but in reality, with the spread right now, we have some pretty fun things happening in our league. So I wanted to take a look back and see like where did people end up from week 4 and 5. This is like right before August, right before the trade deadline in baseball. Like, is this a building year? You kind of define your year because you can either sit in that 3-2, 2-3, Ofer, shout out Bears probably, or you can be on the opposite side and make the second half of the season a lot easier and really get people talking about your Super Bowl potential. So fantasy, it's just as important because this is where we see a lot of teams split, and we see we have a lot of teams here. So we have a lot of teams here in the 2-win column. So this is all historical data here. This is all of our teams over the last 2 years here in the Draft Daddy Fantasy Football League. Only one team has ever been winless. It'll be 2 now. Then we have our 1-win teams, our 2-win teams, our 3-win teams, and our 4-win teams. Out of those teams, these are drafty highlighted. These are the teams, the number of teams who, and no, not calling anybody out, but who made the playoffs. So out of the 1-win teams right now, which there are a few of us, next week's going to be very important. Those 2-win teams, also important because you don't want to fall into the next category. Oh, and last thing, those 2-win teams, the median is also the number 1. Those are where our champions were sitting, and the failed. Well, we know who that is. That's Glenn, because he's our only last place finisher. So this week is really important for a couple reasons, because we start to see a spread, and you'll see when we talk about the playoffs, we've never had an 0-5 team. We've only had one 5-0 team, which I will say is our commission's team from the very first year. And 4-1 teams, we've only had 2, and we are already guaranteed to have at least 2 more this year. Potentially more 5-0. So super interesting, but you start to see a spread. So let's look at what it looks like with our playoff teams. So this is the whole reason I share all of this background is that for those teams who are 2-2 right now, or are 3-1, it's a very important week to win, because this is after these 3-win teams statistically go, and they are the highest likelihood to make the playoffs. The 1 and 2-win teams after week 5, it gets really difficult. So for us 1 and 3 teams, we're going to be trudging from the bottom all the way up. And then, interestingly enough, the teams that won in week 5 both won the championship, and the teams that stayed at 2 and 3, even though there were a few contenders, most of them did not make the playoffs and or finished in last. So I thought this was interesting. I love the data. I love me some fun infographics. So I wanted to share that. In summary, what are your chances of making? There are way better statistical models, but we're generalizing here. If you're 4-0, these 4-0 all the way down to 0-4, your chances of making the playoffs right now, comparatively, 3-2 teams jump up to way above 50%. So just insight for you guys. Aaron, before I share the last thing, which is the final segment of boring analytics with Blake, data. I gotta think of a better segment name for that.
Guru. Data Guru?
Yeah, data.
Nerd alert!
Data Excel. No, I'll take my last year's Excel extraordinaire analytical piece with of all too early playoff odds. But what do you feel about this being a 4-0 team, knowing that 1, you have a really great chance of making the playoffs, but 2, you've also never had one of these really strong teams early on win.
Excel extraordinaire, potentially Python Prince, Python something else, because that's
Python Pro.
Yeah, Python Pro.
I'm not, but
oh, you're getting there. No, I've never been in this situation. Both of the last 2 years, I have fought for a playoff spot. First year, I was the last one in. Last year, I was the first one out. So I have not been in the competition to be a 1 seed, let alone a contender. So it feels good. It really shows, and the analytics really show how important week 5 is. And I think that's
that banner behind you that says Blake Clatterbuck, if you remember, Keegan's a different story, but if you remember, my team was very average. And you want to talk about average, and you're talking about a way to get to the playoffs. What's your target? Regardless of if you're 0-4, which I think Matt has a really good chance of getting there, but how do you get there? So this is the last piece of our Python Pro that we're going to look at here, which is the average record of DDFFL playoff teams. So on average, it's about an 8-5 record gets to the playoffs. And if you're looking for a point value, if you're scoring 107, 108 a week, you are very likely to make the playoffs. So if you're looking for a target, something to shoot for, if you're looking through the schedule, your strength of your schedule, Aaron, so you're halfway there. You're halfway there with 9 weeks left. So
yeah, it feels pretty comfy. But looking at 4-5 for the rest of the way to be a playoff team also seems pretty doable, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I can't get too comfy. I am sitting at 394.22 points per game. So I am actually below 100.
Yeah.
So and looking at this, there are six of the 7 teams in the other division have more points than I do.
All right, you want to talk about average point values. Averaging right now, the teams that are over that 107 mark, 107.8 mark, are in number 1. We've got Victor at 115.54. We've got Kirby, who is 3-1 at 111.23. Then we have, it looks like we've only got one other team, which is Chris Boylan, who is 2-2, who beat me last week, and he's at 107.81, which he is also our two-year reigning total points champion. Meanwhile, on the opposite end of the scale, our lowest are your Asheville Amphetamines at 91, and the E-Dog's there at 92, followed by PP.
Actually,
Keegs. And Keegan. And Keegs. Keegs is actually the lowest. Keegs is significantly lower. He's lower than I am. We love that. All right, Aaron, one of your fellow previously 3-0 daddies fell this week. He fell this week. And that is what we all called. Jacksonville Jacks, what are your big takeaways from this last week for the Jacksonville Jacks Chicago Dogs game?
Well, I see a really low number from Deebo Samuel. So despite that, Jacks pulled it out. And it was, obviously thanks in part to a big number from Stephon Diggs, but actually a rather consistent performance across the board, which is hard to come by in this league. There are a lot of low scorers that we exactly like that see that on Chicago Dogs side with the 4.7 Miles Sanders, the Roschon Johnson, the George Pickens, and I think that if Jackson had played Khalil Herbert on his bench, this would be a runaway. So I think Jax had some consistency. Now I do see that Jax is going to have some trouble moving forward because Zach Moss may not be the starting running back in Indianapolis moving forward. So we got to figure this out. So Jax squeaks one out against a 4-0 team, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. But arguably, with Zach Moss falling, I think Khalil Herbert last week reestablished himself as RB1 over Roschon Johnson. Maybe not for explosiveness, but for utility and for catching passes, scoring touchdowns. That's what he's there for. He's kind of playing that role of Demont as being the workhorse and taking a lot of the load. And eventually that scores points as Demont did last week. One interesting goal I have is I don't know if he has played. He's played him a little bit in the past, but Romeo Doubs. 14 on the bench. You can talk about bench points all you want, but the reality is that Romeo Doubs should have probably been in that starting lineup. Very bold to take both Roschon and DJ Moore, knowing that it could be the Broncos defense, but nobody had proven themselves, and it was a risk, and it did not pay off for the Dogs.
Yeah, just much like the Lake Erie Elves and whatnot in the past. Chicago Dogs, they're a homer. Going with the Chicago boys. So this is the 1 week that it maybe potentially worked out. So the offense, clicked a little bit this week.
But it didn't work out, did it? So
not for the Bears. Fantasy wise, it wasn't bad.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of homeboys, I think we got another one right here with our next matchup. We got Team E Dog and Indianapolis Colt fandom man himself. Return to the PP.
Yeah, we put all of our eggs into the PP basket, and that didn't turn out too well for us, did it? This is maybe potentially one of the worst matchups I've ever seen in this league, unfortunately. PP and E-Dog are both having tough starts to this year. Need to make some changes. Almost half of PP's points come from Anthony Richardson, and E-Dog on the other side getting all of his points pretty much from Purdy and Jefferson. We need some things to switch up here. I think PP totally has the team to put up some points, but just a disappointing week for a lot of guys on his roster.
Absolutely is. Just not putting up, like you said, not putting up a lot of points except for Richardson, which had a great week, but only in quarter 4, right? Like I bet he had to be really sweating some of those things. But you expect a lot more work going forward with James Conner. And I don't know what's happening with Waddle. Maybe it's the Achan chant going on there, but and Tank Dell is back to, it was a good waiver wire pickup for the first week, but kind of fell off the wagon there a little bit on the end. We'll see if that trade does any.
We'll get to this, but Tank Dell and Nico Collins are two of my biggest surprises coming out of Houston this year. CJ Stroud is slinging the rock, and I actually love Tank Dell. I think that this is a great pickup for PP, and he's going to be great. It just was unfortunate that he didn't get the load this week.
Yeah, he did not get the load, but he will probably be getting the load going down the road, and the long road load is going to be good for the PP, especially when JT allegedly comes back. Sounds like him and we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out.
I'm excited for the prospects coming out of the PP.
Yep. I love what's coming out of the PP. All right, let's do this next one. Another kind of mediocre, underwhelming overall, but one thing at least to talk about in this one for sure. Let's get into Team Keegs and the G Train Rat Boys.
Rats. We all went rats. Yeah, this is what we get. This is what we get for putting our faith in the two-time reigning loser.
This is what Team Keegs gets for putting his faith in Josh Allen. What do you see, bud?
I mean, MVP candidate Josh Allen putting up 36.5 points, 5 total touchdowns. After Miami's performance, he really laid the hammer down and said who was the king of the NFL, but the AFC East there. So major, huge performance from Josh Allen. And that's where most of Keegs' points came from. I mean, he's really got to find some more points somewhere. Javonte Williams is questionable. CJ Watson, 2 receptions. Jerry Jeudy 3. Darren Waller 3. And he scraped up a touchdown here or there. But Tutu Atwell, what's it going to look like for him when Cooper Kupp comes back? Yeah. I think that this is, a decent week for Keegs. But looking forward, he's got to put something out there.
Yeah, This is concerning. Any week that Josh Allen does not have 36, almost 40 points, and then his defense. We gotta talk about defenses this week. 21 points from them. Quick call out. Another stat. Excel extraordinaire moment. Aaron, how many defenses do you think have more points total on the year than Joe Burrow?
Yikes. Good call out. I know at least the Cowboys are there because they've put up multiple 20-point weeks. I'm going to say it's probably 5, 6.
9 of them. Yeah. 9 defenses this year. And we'll see here in a second. Defenses, and I've said this, I've preached this, especially in a 14-man league, defense and kicker are where you're going to win and lose games. And we'll see that in my matchup here in a second. But I agree with you. I think Glenn on the other side, though, this is a rough loss for a couple of reasons. Calvin Ridley's just not performing as Trevor Lawrence isn't. I think that with Zay Jones coming back, that will take a little bit of the pressure off to spread it between him, Christian Kirk, and Calvin Ridley. I think Ridley may actually have more opportunity there. But you can call him A-Chain, you can call him A-Chan. It doesn't matter because he's apparently scoring points, man.
Yeah, running back 3 on the year, man. Yeah, great pickup off the waivers. Really, really going to help out the Rats. I think moving forward, it's great, but he's got to find a solution at quarterback. It's not Deshaun. It's not Daniel Jones.
I think he has it. He got no, who'd he get? He got somebody off of Joshua Dobbs. Yeah, he did.
You think it's Joshua Dobbs?
I think, dude, look at okay. And we can leave this for next week, and we can see how it goes. Aaron G's, you might become a permanent freaking guy on here if Kamish keeps backing out.
If he can figure out his quarterback moving forward, I think that G Train has some opportunity with some young running backs. And if Calvin Ridley and Mike Evans perform as they're expected to, it's still a great team. And defense and kickers win championships. He's got the number one kicker in the league right now. Philly's putting up points. Jake Elliott, 18 points on the week. Dude's number one kicker in the league. So I don't know. I like what the Rats are doing this year versus previous years. I think this was just an unfortunate week for him.
We have a frustrated commissioner versus a 4-0 previously struggling daddy. This year is really putting his money where our mouths were, putting his money in our mouths and saying, shut the fuck up, because he's scoring well and he's doing awesome. Lamar had a Lamar week.
Yeah, I have confidence in Vic. 4-0 daddies. So shout out Vic here. I think that Vic is really showing everyone week by week, he's legitimate and he's putting up points. Pacheco had, I don't know if anyone saw the tweet, but punishes the ground beneath him with his 30-yard touchdown scamper. I've never seen someone run so hard as Isaiah Pacheco. Those Kansas City running backs, I never have confidence in them, but Pacheco's doing pretty well this year, and James Cook finally finds the end zone. Tyreek, crazy, off week, 8.7 points, but Mark Andrews found a way to do it. Gabe Davis scored a touchdown. Lamar almost puts up 30. Even without a defense and a kicker hardly at all, Vic puts up 126, and it feels easy, 126. So, scary matchup. Tough look for the commish.
It is. I would say where I see Vic's team starting to fall apart is probably in the Christian Kirk department. Mm-hmm. I don't expect him to continue, especially, like I said, Zay Jones and Calvin Ridley not getting. I don't expect him to continue to get the workload that he has been getting. That being said, still a great week. And the only redeeming factor, while Victor had 4 combined points in defense and kickers, the only redeeming factor that the commish had, because he was only scoring 70 points until Monday night, was the Seahawks D.
Yeah,
what a miserable game. They were just injuring each other, but 30 points from them. Outside of that, not a lot happening positively here for commish.
Well, yeah, Justin Herbert has been a great consistent quarterback through this year. But that's kind of the biggest highlight. Jahmyr Gibbs and Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren on an awful Pittsburgh offense has, sharing carries as well with Najee Harris, and Jahmyr Gibbs taking a backseat to David Montgomery. His his running back situation's tough. Jamar Chase has not been able to get anything out of his quarterback. Jamar, came out and said, "I'm always open." I love hearing that, and I think that Jamar's gonna finally find his stride here. But also disappointing from Olave and Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer had a really big, about 50-yard drop this week, so could have been a lot better there. But I mean, again, the defense, but also Sam Laporta, a great tight end pickup. This is the year that tight ends seem worthless. It doesn't matter who you're putting in that slot because they're not going to score more than 10 points.
Except for Travis Swift.
Except for Travis. Well, and even he's having an off year.
Yeah,
but
not as big.
Mark Andrews on the other side finally had his breakout game this year, which Mark Andrews, they always find themselves in that situation. So tough look for Kamish, a tough year for Kamish. 29 points from the defense is great, but Kamish has also been on the trade block too. Yeah, so we are shipping away a couple of these pieces.
Yeah, we'll see what next week looks like with his new squad along with PP's. One quick thing I will say, Olave, real boomer bust this year. That is disappointing and really hurts the Kamish. If he shows up and the Seahawks still did what they did, then he's got a decent week to play off of. The one big swing and a miss here, one call out I'll say is Jamar Chase getting 10.8 points with only a field goal in that game. That's still impressive and shows the workload that if Joey B and the Bengals can get it together, then Jamar Chase is going to probably pop back up to being the top 5 wide receiver as he has been in the previous couple of years. All right, the Asheville Amphetamines, myself, and the no ACL Trayvon Diggs. Obviously, I'm going myself. Big week, big points, and maybe showed what some of our teams can do here. Commission and I were wrong though, but it came down to a Monday night. I wouldn't call it as much of a nail biter as some of these other games, but I was watching that awful game, just praying for something. Or nothing.
Yeah, I completely get it on the coming down to Monday night. I was pleasantly surprised by your team this week. I did not give you any credit in our predictions last week. And you put up 124, which was huge. I didn't think Justin Fields was going to do it. AJ Brown, blew up. This is a story of the defenses here too. Again, like you mentioned, defenses and kickers. My God.
Yeah. He had 38 points between his D and kick. And then I had 31 points between mine. So that is huge. That is huge. And that's what got us both way above that 107 mark. Because I mean, Patrick Mahomes, we both had a few players, do better than expected. Everybody else was, look at Amari and Pat Freiermuth. Freiermuth went out with his injury. And then my running back core just doing their shit running back core things. But yeah, I had Justin, man, I'll tell you what, I almost wish he would have blown it. If I said I needed a big week from Justin to win. I was 3rd overall this week in points, which hurts when you look at some of the other matchups. But if Justin was going to do that well, I wish I needed to get a win. And I wish that he would have totally bombed so I could move on. But unfortunately, I'm stuck in a very toxic relationship with a very hot, crazy, not so blonde, but it makes me want more. It's kind of like a drug. It's bad for me, but I gotta have it.
This is what he does. He'll keep you on. So, but you know how Justin Fields started, and then he ended as a fantastic fantasy quarterback last year. This might be the game.
It was this week that it was week 4. It was week 3 to 4 where things turned around. They had more wins then. Bears are still over, but Justin Fields is going to be trying to get a paycheck this year, so he's not going to stop playing till the very end. So I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up on him.
I feel great about your future if you can figure out your running backs.
We're trying.
Yeah, I know. On the flip side, I do want to highlight the Trayvon Diggs. One, we were both on the waiver wire picking up kickers last week, which I thought about Brandon Aubrey, but we both ended up in a positive situation this week. So this is one of the reasons why Chris is our top scorer year over year. He's always playing the waivers well. The biggest highlight for me on Chris's team is his wide receiver 2 right now. It's Puka, who is having a historic year, offensive rookie of the year type year. I want to see what happens when Kupp comes back. I think Kupp's coming back next week, so I want to see how those targets are shared.
Yep.
Puka's incredible.
What's fortunate for this league and for the no ACL team in particular is that he's got Cooper. So he can play both of his wide receivers, and honestly, they could maybe we see a more even spread, but he still looks like he's going to get consistent points. Watch out for RAP Trayvon Diggs, because arguably, watch out for both of us. If I can get my running back situation figured out, and I say that with tongue in cheek because I needed a win this week to really stay competitive, but nonetheless. Can we have another data nerd Excel extraordinaire moment?
Nerd alert!
Yeah, let's see it.
This was a close one by the hair. Cox got away with it by the hair of his chinny chin chin, and that hurt. That hurt, Mr. Bennett. And not to call you out here to share our private conversation here, Peyton, but this is exactly what I received shortly after that game finished up. Why does this happen to me every season? My team's solid. I get fucked every single fucking goddamn game. Last season, every single player had their highest score against me. This season, this season I lose a game by less than 1 receiving yards. Then he said, "Make Mish give me a point. I deserve it." And then he said, "Fuck this bum," and sent Joe Burrow's picture. So we're going to share this here, a little piece of the closest matchups of all time in the history of the DDFFL. And this is to help Peyton feel maybe a little better, maybe not about last week, but I know that you have teams have really good weeks against you, but we all do, and we all feel this. So top 5, we have 8. We have 8 games that we're just gonna breeze through real quick, Aaron. These are the 8 games in the DDFFL history, including this season, that had a difference between winner and loser by 1 point or less. And there's a lot of repeat names in here. So let's take a look. So we got E-Dog and C-Dog. This was in week 13, week before the playoffs, way back in 2021. It was a 1 point difference. The number 7, we had PP and Victorville. It was a 0.84 difference. That was in week 3, same week as last year. This one I know this one hurt. We had Keegs and Chrissy B by a 0.84 difference, and that was in the semifinal. That was
134.
And they both scored so many points. And Chris got to the championship against me, where he unfortunately lost. But this was this one I'm sure hurt Chris. Next difference was by half a point, which was myself and Victorville. Second time Victor's been on here. And this one hurt a lot because I remember it very specifically. I was driving on I-69 South going home, watching the Bears game, or had it streaming on my phone. And it was Khalil or Demont, one of them. All we needed was to get a first down. It was like 4th and 1. The Bears decided to not kick it, and they decided to go with a run, and they got the first down, but then didn't. Then Khalil Herbert stayed out on the field for the rest of the game, but it was like with a minute and a half left. So they went for the time suck as opposed to the points. So I remember that one. It hurt. Next one is also myself. I was on the opposite side of this one. I remember this one as well. This was me and the Sea Dogs, his second time, both of our second time being up here. 0.36 difference. And the reason it was somebody versus the Packers, and he had Aaron Rodgers at QB. And the whole reason that he lost was because of a kneel down, or 2 consecutive kneel downs to finish the game. And I don't know if he realized it in that moment what happened, because I was like, holy fucking shit, I can't believe that. 2 more guys. We're getting down to the wire. Peyton, you're next, I promise. Boylan and E-Dog, 0.34 difference. Again, really close. Week 12, super late. There was a lot on the line for this one for E-Dog because this took him out of playoff contention last year. Every team on here that I've said has been on here 2 times, except for Team Keegs. All right, Peyton, here you go. You were the second lowest of all time in the league at 0.01 last week. So you are vindicated a bit in that, but you're the only one up there one time. E-Dog's up here 3 times on both sides at 0.02. That is truly stat correction difference right there.
0.02, half a passing yard in our league. Yeah, Peyton, It's 0.08's tough. And I was messaging with Ass as well, saying this has got to be the closest matchup. And he brought up the E-Dog matchup, and it was close, but that can't feel good.
Yeah. I'll breeze real quick through this one because will take up a lot of the time. But I'll let you talk about Nico Collins. But real quick, We've already harped on how bad Joe Burrow has been this year, with 9 defenses being better at total points than him. But a shining light at the end of the tunnel. I think that Peyton has a good team, and he has had some unfortunate matchups similar to our matchup of the week, which we'll talk about here in a second. But David Montgomery is back, and he is doing David Montgomery things. That's exciting. So Peyton has a solid team. I just keep riding the train, man. You're doing just fine, except for get rid of Young Hoku. He's not getting enough. He would have gotten you those extra points. There were kickers that could have won this game for you, but.
Yeah, Peyton Tarkington Crawdaddies has, an incredible team on paper, and seeing David Montgomery and Bijan as workhorses, Joe Burrow, if he could live up, Amon-Ra and Keenan Allen, my God, this looks like an unstoppable team. I think this was a really unfortunate matchup. So.
Yep. All right, I know you talked about it earlier. Nico Collins had a great game. Arguably got 32.3. Those 0.3 could have gotten the W here. What do you see from Nico and the rest of the Cox?
Nico Collins being a third-year receiver, third-year receivers historically have had really good breakouts. So last season there were 9 third-year receivers, and 5 of them had career highs. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Gabe Davis, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Ayuk. Guys like Justin Jefferson and Ayuk were successful in their first couple seasons, but they really launched that third year. So I think that we could potentially see that Nico Collins maybe takes that step. And again, some other third year guys who had some great years in their third year: Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra.
Yeah.
These are all top wide receivers in the league now. So Nico Collins potentially could take that step.
Yeah, I think Nico Collins is probably playing as a tier 1 wide receiver, at least for the next few weeks with some of their matchups. But he's playing CJ Stroud in the QB position now. And I think that is a fantastic move. Watch out for both of these teams in the long run as well.
I agree. These are scary teams.
Let's talk about the matchup of the week. I would argue both very scary teams, but the records show differently. We've got Mr. 4-0 and Mr. 0-4. Great matchup out there. It's so fun seeing you. You looked great out there on the field. Had some real big winners out there. How'd you feel out there on the stat sheet on the computer this week?
Hey man, this was a tough matchup. Kudos to my opponent. This Room 40 put up a hell of a fight, but I'm the best there ever is. This to be true. 4-0 on the year. So I was confident I was going to pull out the win in this one.
Well, really, really happy for you. I guess we'll have to see how you do, but couple things to call out for you, bud. CMC saved your fucking ass because when you look at everything else, in particular, the Jordan Addison 0, and I'm very familiar with that because I have him in another league. Oof, especially after last week where he had a great week. A little lackluster, but Brett Maher came through for you, bud. He might not have for the old Cowboys last year.
Yeah. So this is what I was talking about with the no Achilles or no ACLs. He picked up a kicker, and I did too. And if Maher hits 2 of those field goals, which they were both 40-yarders, we're talking, this isn't a close matchup. So, CMC, man, put on, one of the most historic, performances and really carried me. And I will say for Room 40, what a hell of a running back room he's got. Derrick Henry, Kyren Williams, Alvin Kamara, and Josh Jacobs put up 23.9 on the bench. I don't know anyone who's got that depth putting up that many points. Alvin Kamara, fun fact, had 13 receptions for 33 receiving yards, which actually set a record for the fewest yards for that many receptions by 40 yards. The next closest was 13 for 70 something. I don't know how you manage 13 receptions for 33 yards. So this could have been a wild matchup overall. Room 40, 0-4. God damn it, he's 4-0 in my heart. This man, greatest spirit. This all came down to Jason Myers on Monday night. He had the opportunity, Seahawks on the 30-yard line, and they went for it on 4th down and turned the ball over because it was the end of the game. They could have kicked a field goal. They were already blowing out the Giants, but they didn't kick it, and I came away with a victory.
That's 2 weeks in a row that it came down to a kicker not kicking on the very last play of the game to lose or win somebody. But real quick to you, Matt, you want to talk about a team? This is not an 0-4 team by any means. I would argue he's on the reverse. In fact, when you look at some projected standings, even despite being 0-4, well, just kidding. His record, hang on, let me pull up power rankings. I feel better now that when I look at power rankings, so not looking at overall odds or anything, but in the power rankings alone, Room 40 is team 5 at 91, a 91 out of 100 score. He has a fantastic team, and that is he just got Kamara back, and Jeff Wilson Jr. in his IR, about to jump back in too, most likely. Might be a potential flex play there. Watch out for this team too. I think that the boys and the men are getting separated, and this is going to be a fun second 2/3 of the season. But good win. Congrats on being 4-0. It's fun. We got a mix up in the league this year. We got a big mix up in the league this year. Check out the overall standings because everybody's regressing to the mean a little bit because Chris, 2-2, myself, Keegs, and Kmish, all teams that have at least made the playoffs or further, or won a championship, or made it to a championship game in the last 2 years out of those 4. But it's not looking as likely this year. We got some new guys in the mix. We're keeping it fresh.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about it. The hell of a week. I'm looking forward to the playoff push coming from Room 40. So,
yeah, before we go, thank you so much for being here, and I need your hot take. You and Victor, we've only ever had one other 5-0 team. Do we have 5-0? Do we have a 6-0? Do we have a new record? What do you think? Take a second.
I'm a newly married man, but my wife will tell you the best. I've got the endurance. I can go a long time. I can keep this going. So sorry about it, Vic. I think that I'm going to keep this train running, and who knows when it's going to stop.
And I love you, bud. I think you have a great team, but I just want to call out real quick who Vic's next opponents are. He's got E-Dog next week. He's got Peyton the week after that. Then he's got me, and then he's got Room 40, and then PP. And then in week 10, he plays you. I would say if his team stays hot, this man, we could theoretically see a 9-0, maybe, or 9-0, maybe a 10-0. After that, his schedule gets a little bit harder, but we'll see. Best of luck to you, boys. I won't be here next week. I think, Aaron, maybe you and Kmish are going to do it. We'll have to come back and see. I know this was a long one, boys. Glad you stuck around to the end. If you did, then you get to say that you listened to the whole thing. I have so much editing to do. Aaron, you got to go eat dinner. You've given me so much of your time. Love you, buddy. Love you, daddies. Aaron, any lasting words?
No, love you all. God bless you all. Let's keep this train rolling.